The agreement of gratitude. We make agreements all the time, and there are certain life agreements that we've made for so long we don't even realize that they exist. Now, if you really want to know the agreements that you've made, simply look at how you deal with adversity. This alone reveals so much about you. Now, the great news is you can begin now to make a new agreement. You only need to review how you handle situations and then ask yourself, does this agreement, the way that I handle this, really serve me? Does it serve me for the good? Or has it just become a bad habit? Now, if you can see and realize that it's become a bad habit, then it's just time to drop it like it's hot. I have what's called the agreement of gratitude. This is something that I apply to anything that happens in my life in a way that allows me to return to the state of gratitude. Number one, any and everything that got to me went through God. And that means any ups, downs, ins, outs, criticisms, complaints, actual circumstances that have happened to me, good, bad, and ugly. Anything and everything that got to me went through God. That does not mean that God created it. He didn't create the storm or the getting fired. He didn't create those things. But you cannot sneak through and get to God. You can't sneak around God. God is all knowing. God is Alpha and Omega, beginning and ending. God knows everything, every hair on my head. So anything and everything that got to me went through God. And that means it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. If I can just make the agreement and agree with, if it got to me, that it's happening for me, that alone changes your resistance to whatever is happening. And number three, which further means that there's something greater on a spiritual, non-visible level occurring even when it's disguised as a bad situation or circumstance. And that means my human senses, the sight, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, they all may recognize the visible surface level. And they may see this and feel this as an unfortunate event, something uncomfortable, something bad, if you will. But those senses only reveal the tip of the iceberg of the situation. And as you know, the larger part of the iceberg is down below. And I believe that's a spiritual real side. That can be a completely different story from what we see on the surface. You see, too often we see something from the surface level and we make these assumptions or agreements that, oh, this happened, so that must mean I'm bad, or this happened, so that must mean I'm doing something bad, or this happened, so that must mean somebody's doing something to me, or that happened and I'm helpless, etc., etc., etc. But these agreements of gratitude shift that thinking. And then number four, the story that this happened for me, for my greater good and the greater good of all and any impacted. And it's my job or my role and my pleasure to exclaim, thank you, God. For I know in all things you are working for my good. My faith in action is praise. So here I am, Lord. And the only words that I can say are thank you. So the agreement of gratitude reroutes your mindset, and it gets you off the mentality that this is happening to me and into the mentality that this is happening for me. So number one, I'll recap the steps. Anything and everything that got to me went through God. Number two, which means it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. Number three, which further means that there's something greater on a spiritual, non-visible level occurring. And number four, that this is happening for me, for my greater good, which means my job, my role, and my pleasure is to simply say, thank you, God. I'm using my faith in action, which is praise. And the praise language that I'm using is thank you. So when you make the agreement of gratitude, that means you're able to say thank you. Thank you for whatever it is. And I know this may seem counterintuitive. I know it may seem hard, it may seem strange, but if you make the agreement, if you make these four agreements and you live by these agreements of gratitude, then your whole outlook changes. What may seem bad, you will see is ultimately for your good. And if you really take the time and look through your life, you can see in the past situations and circumstances that have occurred that have actually created some good in your life. Well, in truth, this agreement tells us that they all are happening for our good. So the sooner we can get out of why is this happening to me, and thank God this is happening for me, and I may not know all the pieces, I may not understand what I'm seeing visually or what I'm feeling, but thank God it's happening because I agree, I've made the agreement that in all things God works for the good, and He's working for the good of me in this situation. So when you begin to live this agreement of gratitude, you're going to break those old habits, that old mindset, that old mentality, and you're going to embrace things in a new way in 2013 and beyond. Friends, it is achievable. And I'm glad to share the agreement of gratitude with you.